Oh, fucking A. What's up, YouTube? I'm Robert, and this is the Biker Channel. As normal, a complete fucking shit show. However, this is the third episode of the Biker Bar. And for those of you that wanted to show up 13 minutes late, you did the perfect thing because we just fucked it all up. So apparently, I have a very, very solid grip on information technology. Good thing I do that for a living. No. And but today's episode is actually me here in the garage with this guy, C-Lock. If you guys don't know him, he just mumbles a lot. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and he mumbles.
And then on the other end, we have this guy, Richard, from STIKRD. And STIKRD is a company that is making custom the new standard. Richard, can you tell me about Richard from STIKRD, please?
What's up, YouTube? My name's Richard, and this is the Biker Channel. Hey, guys. Anyway, what I do is I've worked with the companies, and I've gotten permission from all of them, and I create decals that you can basically customize color-wise. You can add patterns, whatever, from forks to shocks to wheels, frames, handlebars and cranks, and basically replace your graphics if you want to make your bike look a little bit different. Yeah.
So essentially, you started this company for what reason?
So I've always kind of built my own bikes, and in doing so, I would always like try to buy the parts that I wanted to buy. And a lot of times, a lot of these parts weren't available, and I was like, man, there's got to be a better way an easier way to make my bike look like the bike that I want. And I've been a graphic designer now for 20 years, so I basically said, okay, what if we went into making the decals? And that's a much easier way to make your fork match your frame or vice versa. And so we got into that, and I had a business partner in the beginning, and he was in the bike industry, so we started using our connections to actually reach out to all the bike companies, connect ourselves with them, get their permission, and become kind of a aftermarket reproduction company. Yeah, so that's what we're doing.
So essentially, you were always like just like redoing your own bike, and you felt like there wasn't somebody that had what you were looking for?
Not necessarily. There are some other companies out there doing what I'm doing. What I wanted to do was approach it from a, what I would call a legal standpoint. And what that comes down to is I'm out here in San Jose, which is close to, I've got Santa Cruz, I've got Specialized, I've got Ibis, Praxis Works, we're right in the middle of, mountain bike Mecca, if you will. Mount Tamalpais is an hour from us, where mountain biking was basically born. So I wanted to work with the companies rather than stealing their intellectual property and just reproducing decals. And so, I've made contact with these companies through going to Interbike and just emailing and even physical meetings with these guys and showing them, hey, look at this. We can help you sell more product, because now instead of somebody going and buying a different product simply because, there's somebody who had a red one instead of a green one, now you can make a green one and somebody will buy your product, It gives people the flexibility to buy what they want rather than having to settle for something else simply because of a color choice,
I can say too, like in my experience, like as I've been building bikes and like rebuilding bikes, I typically buy used bikes. And so like when I was buying used bikes that were aluminum, I'd go get them powder coated, and then I'd want to go get stickers done. And to be quite frank, like I would just get on eBay and look for them. And and then, it really shocked me though, is that like, I never really understood why, like I couldn't go to Cannondale's website and say, hey, I want pink, and they could send it, or hey, I want, yellow in this, in this year, and they could sell them. And so whenever I would go on eBay, it would only be like, a couple of companies like globally that even offered something like that. And then you couldn't do anything custom. Like as far as you could go was get the font that's like the Cannondale font, or get the Santa Cruz font and the year of your bike, and then maybe change the color. But you on this hand, like you do it like that, where it's just like the stock graphic design. and different colors, but you also do like custom on top of that, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we've done, some of the more popular kind of super custom pieces are, different camouflages, wood grain. Some people want like forest in the background. It runs the gamut really. Like on the spot, I'm kind of.
I saw a bike that got a lot of Instagram traffic. That was, it was like all the decals were shiny metallic gold, just like the Kashima.
So yeah, we've got a metallic material. It's a chrome material, so it starts off silver, and I can actually print colors on top of that, and I can basically kind of replicate several different colors, be it gold or like metallic green, metallic red. Basically, I can make it look like anodized aluminum, right? So, one of the cool features I found, I work with I9 directly, and they have, obviously, you can go in and choose your spoke and nipple colors, and you get these cool, metallic green or metallic yellow or metallic purple spokes. And then what I did is I was like, hey, why don't we offer the decals for your wheels in a metallic as well, so it matches the spokes? And it's actually been a really popular option for a lot of people.
That's actually pretty cool, because I'll be honest with you, one of the things that bothers me the most about anodization is whenever you're customizing is actually trying to match those colors. So it is really cool that a company like them, they'll build your wheel out like that, because I've ordered the nipples before and then they don't match my hub, and then I have to order other ones until I can actually see that. But then to be able to get like actually your decals on your bike to match that as well, that's pretty sick. So I want to step away from exactly what you guys do for a business just for a minute.
Yep.
And I want to talk about you as a rider yourself. Like, how did you get into mountain biking, dude?
Man, it was probably about my senior year in high school, and I had a buddy of mine that was big into mountain biking. His name was Hondro, short for Alejandro, and dude had like all the coolest bikes back then, like the Intense SoCom, and he had like the big downhill bikes and stuff. And
what year are we talking about at this point? Because when I say I was in high school compared to when you say you were in high school, it might not have been the same thing. So
97 was my senior year.
Okay, so we're close to the same age then.
Yeah.
That's because we're brothers according to the internet anyway. Every time I post a picture on Instagram with me and Richard, everybody's like, oh, that must be your brother. He actually introed a video that we did together, and I had a bunch of people comment that they didn't even know that it wasn't me.
Nice.
I was like, I thought I actually had some branding, but apparently not.
It's just really good branding. We both have top tier branding. It just happens to be the same brand.
Big round guy with a beard.
Yep. Who knew that wasn't a staple of society?
So this guy is in high school with you, and he has all the rad bikes, and he just invites you out, or?
Well, I mean, he and I used to do like a lot of custom graphic design stuff together. He was real big in the rave scene, and he was doing like video production at the time, but he still needed like help with a lot of the printed pieces and stuff for like all the huge parties, and I would help him out with that. And I was like, dude, these bikes are sweet. And he's like, yeah, you got to come out and ride sometime. So he took me out and like threw me over the sides of cliffs on these things, and lo and behold, I ended up at the bottom of the hill safe. And I was just like, man, this is like riding a roller coaster that I'm in control of, and it's fantastic, And I went away to college after that, down to Cal Poly, and I started working with some of the local bike shops doing graphic design for those guys. Got my first
for graphic design at that time as well, right?
Yeah, I was in, so fine arts graphic design was my major.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I did some graphic design work for this one bike shop, and they traded me a bike for it, and it's been I haven't looked back since, man. I've been riding since then. And
you're a big dude like I am. I think you're, I don't know, I guess you're not a lady, so I don't have to worry about asking about your weight, but I think you're probably about 250, something like that, right?
Yeah, I hover right around 240 on a good day,
So what is, as being a bigger guy, what is something that that you look at mountain biking different than maybe the rest of the other people out there?
First and foremost, modulation is not a thing when you're a big guy on brakes. What did I say the other day? Modulation is a Native American term for brakes that don't work. Yeah, no. So a lot of things that people find amazing on bikes that are like So you and me are what are called non-rider specific, because we are literally outside the gamut of what bike companies create for. Most bike companies create bikes for dudes that go from about 120 to 180 pounds. That's the gauge that the mountain biking community falls within. And so, you know, being a bigger guy, there's a lot of stuff that we have to look at differently when we choose a bike. You know, for instance, I really enjoy wider rims with a little bit wider tire. I've come to love 29er bikes because it offers a bigger tire patch contact, which gives me better grip and a little bit more security when I'm riding.
Have you ridden 27.5 plus yet, or are you?
I have. I actually I demoed an HD3 back when they came out with the 2.8 tires, and took that up to Downeyville and Northstar.
Personally, I like the 275 plus better than the 29er.
Yeah,
I feel like it still has some agility to it, and I feel like it has even more hookup as far as the tire goes. But so to you, the 29er though, you like that?
This is only within the last couple of years though, man. Because honestly, I had when I was waiting for one of my frames, actually, my buddy lent me his. It was a Rip 9er, and this was probably 2012, 2013, and I fucking hated that bike, man. It was like tall, and like I just felt like I was on top of a penny farthing, you know. But now, my bike back here, I'm riding the Ibis Gen 3 Ripley with the LS, so it's the longer, slacker version. These bikes, I demoed this bike 4 separate times before I bought one, and I didn't want to like 29ers because you know how it goes, right? 26, everybody's like, oh, fuck 29, and then 27.5 came out, and people are like, fuck 27.5, and then people jump to 27.5.
Preface too, because I know this. Like you were a DH guy.
Yeah, I came from strictly DH. You know,
you were just doing like lift access stuff, or
yeah, we would shuttle and do lift access. I mean, unfortunately, there were times where I had to try and pedal my bike up hills just to get up there. But the shorter travel bikes just, to me, weren't working for guys my size, you know. And probably around 2013, 14, I started to go a little bit shorter travel bikes. And from 2014 to 2018, man, these bikes have absolutely just become a whole different beast, man. They're insane how good they are.
So from all that perspective, then you're moving on into the 29er. You're digging the Ibis.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you feel about frames? Like, do you think it matters whether it's aluminum or carbon?
The largest difference I've noticed between aluminum and carbon, there's a negligible weight savings, obviously, but carbon deadens the trail chatter a ton. You know, I had an aluminum bike where I actually put on carbon cranks, carbon bars, and carbon wheels, and the ride difference was so tangible that I was like, man, I can't even imagine what this combined with a carbon frame could be like. And finally, I got on a carbon frame, and I was just like, now I don't have to worry about all this feedback. I can actually concentrate on going faster, body positioning, pedaling through sections that before I would just be like holding on and going, so it's good.
Think that transfers down to the smaller guys too?
I can only imagine it does.
Yeah. I know for me, like whenever I first rode like a 27.5 plus tire, like it just, for me, I felt like, wow, this must be what it feels like for a skinny guy to ride regular tires.
Possibly.
It's like the way it hooks up and stuff like that. And with the frame material, I'm not necessarily always sure like what the difference is, to tell you the truth. I know like technologically it's not flexing as much whenever I'm putting load on it, which is pretty much if I sit on it. Right. So that has to apply for something. But I don't know if carbon's always the way to go personally. I know when I first got like carbon handlebars, for example, I really felt like they were a little rougher on the ride than
really. And that could be true. I mean, some carbon bars could be running a thicker carbon layup, which will probably add to that. We're in a weird place where there's a dichotomy of terminology really when it comes to mountain bikes, right? People want stiff but pliable, right? So everybody's always just like, oh, the bike's super stiff, but it's also really, you can just really not worry about the trail. You can't feel it. And those two things go directly in the face of each other. You can't have a very stiff bike and not feel the trail, right? So i.e. 35 millimeter handlebars versus the 31.8, you know, and we came from like, what was it? I don't know, 28.1 or something like that. So handlebars have gotten thicker, but I think if you look at most companies, they've settled back at 31.8 because they realize that little bit of give combined with carbon is the best combination to, you know, kill that chattery sensation.
So with carbon coming out from aluminum, really kind of changed the game as far as like the frame design. Instead of it just being like tubular, it's square. If it's evil, it's like, yeah, go ahead and just press this through a Play-Doh machine and that's what you get. And how does that affect you as a designer for trying to like make the graphics for these bikes?
Well, again, I work with the companies, and so they give me the graphics, right? I'm not sitting there trying to trace out the graphics and recreate the wheel, so to speak. Now there are times.
In some cases you do though, like if it's an older bike or something that maybe they're giving you the graphics, but you have an agreement with them. Yeah. At that point, like how do you, I'm sorry, I'm getting off from my original question, but I think it's a good thing to talk about is how do you get then that for the person who's trying to order the stickers from you?
It's kind of like, it's pretty vacuous, man. It's sometimes I'm spot on and people are like, wow, you did that really well. And then sometimes even with all the best measurements and whatnot, I send it to them and they're like, this is way off. It's very hard, especially when I don't have the tangible product in my hands to do it myself. You know, I'm relying on somebody to give me measurements and I can give the best directions I think I can. And I'm like, hey, here's everything. Ooh, nice package, tuck in the edges, tape, you know, a little bow. And what they give me back is not what I needed, or maybe it's a little off. And that's no fault of the people that I work with.
Because ultimately, so you're asking them like if they have a bike maybe that you don't have the graphics for, they need to know like the width of the font and the height of the font, right? And then that gives you, then you know, oh, I can use the same font style that they have, right? But you make it this size.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and here's the thing, right? Like within graphic design, a company will do what's called kerning, which is reducing or increasing the space in between letters to reduce visual discrepancies between letters. So like if you take a T, which has a bunch of space in between, and put it next to an H, now you have this big empty space of square. And then next to the H, maybe you put an L, right? So the H and the L are butt way together, and that space now feels smaller than the space next to it, right? And then the L has that big square over there. And whatever you put over there, there's this big space. So visually it looks stretched out and ill-spaced. And so kerning allows you to move the letters a little bit to try and visually space the letters out so that they flow and there's no hang-ups within the lettering, right? And that's part of being a graphic designer. And so companies do that. And so whenever I go and just kind of use a general font or whatever, I'm guessing at what they're doing. You know, I mean, I'll go and do searches. And
so that makes sense. So that's why maybe you could print it out and with your letter spacing, it's actually not the same. So that would be another. You're trying to ask somebody, a layman like me, I'm just drinking beer in my garage. I'm like, yeah. So you actually need to know the spaces in between the letters as well. And it's not like they can picture and be like, oh, here you go. Like,
I mean, that's more often than not, that's the response I get. They're like, here's a picture. I'm like, thank you.
So if they took like a tape measure and spread it, or a yardstick and like put it out on top of the graphic and took a picture of it, that would probably get you a lot better.
Yes, but the problem with taking a picture is you have to realize there's some lens distortion within cameras, and all cameras have a different lens distortion. And so at the edge of pictures, sometimes it bulges. At the inside of pictures, sometimes it bulges, changes shape if you're not shooting it directly on. You know, there's so many variables in that instance. You know, and I try to account for them, but it is what it is. You know, it's a necessary evil that I have to deal with within what I'm doing.
So basically the moral of the story is that if you're getting graphics that you don't have the design for, there's a little bit of back and forth, and maybe the first set that somebody gets isn't right.
Yeah, there's that. I mean, and even within graphics that I get from some of the companies, most bike companies don't design graphics for each size of bike. So what they'll do is they'll go, okay, here's our medium bike, and they'll send that overseas, and then the company that produces the frames adjusts the graphics, right? And some companies adjust graphics better than others. Some just stretch it. Some will actually resize it officially. So it runs the gamut, right? So you got somebody on that end that may or may not know how to be graphically oriented. So sometimes stuff's off. And, I try to work with the companies to keep that, mitigated. But in the end, sometimes it just doesn't work.
I was going to ask you that. So the graphics they actually change sizes for the frames? It's not
not every company. For instance, Santa Cruz doesn't do that. Specialized does, Ibis does, Norco does, Canfield does, several other companies as well. And obviously, wheel companies do the same. Different size wheels has different size graphics. So
I think that was another thing that I wanted to talk to you about on here, that from me working with you over time, that I really was kind of surprised about, was the colors and how they play out. Because basically you can't print every color that we can see, right?
Right. And
like a digital color, which would be, I'll let you get into this for the layman's out there. Like, most people, when they're designing, like if I'm making a logo for my website, I'm using what's called RGB.
Right.
But print typically uses CMYK, right?
Correct.
And RGB, what does RGB stand for?
That stands for red, green, and blue. And those are the three light wavelengths that a computer screen uses to create all the colors you see on a screen. And it actually is stepped in 256 increments. And so basically what you're seeing is, the darker a color is, the less amount of steps you're seeing. And then if you have your red, your green, and your blue in 256 points of concentration, you get white. Now, going the other way, ink starts off at 0, which is white. And as you add the 100% on cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, you get technically black. But inks aren't 100%.
The CMYK. So
yeah.
Cyan. What's cyan? What color is that?
Cyan's it's kind of a light blue, but it's intense.
Okay. M is magenta. That's a reddish.
It's kind of a hot pink almost.
Yeah. And then Y is yellow.
Yellow. And then K is black.
K is black. That makes
Correct.
a lot of sense.
Well, I think it comes down to, they didn't want people to get confused and think it was blue, so they did the K, which is the last letter of black. I'm not entirely sure that's it.
So I think you have a graphic that we talked about earlier that kind of shows that, and why you run into some problems with the bikes.
Yeah, I can show you a couple things. So this is probably the easiest to understand right here. And so the big area on the outside is what we call the visible spectrum. Everything that people's eyes can see, that's what's available in terms of our visual perception. Now, if you look closely here, you'll see a yellow triangle, and that is your RGB, which is your screen colors. So you've got your green, got your blue, you've got your red, and as they get more intense, they come together to form the white right here. Now, if you look even closer, there's a black area. That black area is the CMYK possibilities. So anything outside of that black circle.
So basically, for those of you guys that are maybe just driving along, listening to this on your drive, the visible spectrum looks like a kind of fucked up triangle that's really big. Right. And then inside of that is a regular triangle, which is missing a shit ton of colors. And then
it's probably missing half the colors.
Right. Then the black area that he's talking about is basically like a circle that doesn't encompass the entire triangle. So then you have all the spots in the circle that are outside of the triangle that are not RGB. So when somebody's seeing that on their computer screen, that color actually can't be, or I'm sorry, the CMYK can't be represented on the computer screen.
And then vice versa. if it's outside of that circle, it can't be represented by a printed color
at all.
Not really, no. And sometimes I can do some fudging. I mean, I'm pretty good with that. Like I said, I've got about 12 years of print experience. So I'm able to do some color testing and get close. But that takes time and that takes money. So if you're really adamant about a color, you're gonna have to pay a little bit extra to get the exact color you want, or at least as close as we can.
You want to know something funny?
I do.
Those of you guys that don't, Richard's been to my house a bunch of times. My dog does not like Richard for some reason.
And here's my voice, and he's growling.
He just came out in the backyard and he started barking. He's like, "Where the fuck is that?"
Look at me. I'm your captain now.
Sorry, I heard him come out and I was like, "Motherfucker." He's like, oh, "There's Richard. Come on, bark out." So getting back to it. So do the bike company. So you just talked to me about the difference of, because sometimes like maybe I design something or somebody sends you like a graphic and they want that exact color, and maybe because the way CMYK is doesn't represent it exactly right. Mm-hmm. So then there's also some other issues from what you had told me with printing as well, that like printers do when like Santa Cruz like picks a color for their bike, mm-hmm. That's a paint color, not a print color. So correct. Does that then end up being something that is not even being able to be printed? So when somebody would be like, oh, okay, they have the teal Santa Cruz that I have, and they're like, I want this to be gone, or this part to be like the exact same color. You can't match that paint exactly then, can you?
No.
So when they're choosing those paint colors with, like, they're not choosing colors that are in that spectrum of printing range always.
No. So going back to this graphic right here, the way the print and paint industry gets around this is they actually create what's called a Pantone scale. And the Pantone scale extends color past the normal range of a CMYK printer. And Pantone is only good if you're using what's called a plate printer, okay? And a plate printer basically is, if you can imagine these big towers and they have this plate.
Wait, you have a picture.
I do. And here, let me show it to you. Okay, so if you look here, you can see this. This thing's about 60 feet long by about 10 feet wide. They're gigantic. This is a plate printer. And each one of these different towers has cyan, magenta, yellow, black, and then usually there's another tower here that will run a fifth color that can be your Pantone color, right? So if you have an absolutely specific color you need to run, this is your Pantone color. Now, you can see this is kind of modular, so you can actually add different towers.
So that Pantone color is like a special witch's brew mix color that you're
correct. Yeah. Okay. And then so, a lot of people also ask like, hey, can I do a gloss and matte decal? And the reason I can't do that is because I'm printing on one sheet and then I do a laminate, which is a sheet laminate. So it's actually a piece of vinyl that I'm putting over the top, and it's one color. Whereas when they get these decals printed by these machines, what they'll do is one of those towers actually has a gloss or a matte or a satin, and that's how they get that dual effect of gloss and matte. Now, I am looking into doing some different techniques by using some templates to create a matte gloss effect, and I have some success, but I have to figure out the best way to use some like spray templates to get it really dialed and looking professional. I'm at about 80% right now.
So you don't have the 60-foot printer. You have a different printer.
Correct. That one looks a lot like your home printer. This is the exact model I have. This is the HP Latex 360. And it's basically, I mean, if you opened up your house printer, it would have a cyan, a magenta, a yellow, and a black cartridge. And that little head moves back and forth. And as that head moves back and forth, it basically acts like a little micro spray paint can and sprays the dots where it needs to go, right? This is just a giant version that works on a 60-inch sheet of vinyl. And it has a much higher DPI.
So the way your stickers are printed is they come out of that machine.
Correct.
And then that's just like a regular piece of paper?
Yeah, technically, it's just like what you would print on your home printer.
Right. And then you put some plastic on top of it?
Yeah. basically it's a lamination film, and it's the same size, and I run it through these two big rollers that basically smash it together, and then I can offer a gloss, a matte, a satin. There's some other things out there in the world. They've got some like metallic covers. They've got some.
Does it have like an adhesive on it, or does it just like
that on the bottom side? Yeah.
Okay. Does that adhesive like mess up the colors at all?
So when you add gloss laminate, you do get a little bit of color darkening. It tends to make the color look a little bit more vibrant, a little darker. The satin is probably the least intrusive in terms of like color variation, and then the matte will dull the color slightly.
So basically, you go through all this fucking shit show of a process to get a color right, and then you print it, and then that's like a little bit of a dice roll too then.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, dude, color is the most frustrating. And here's the other thing too, I use several different materials, and each different material ranges in terms of its pure white state, which I print on. So you get some that looks almost very light gray and some that looks super bright white. And each different material has what's called a printer profile. And that profile is basically the company who produced the vinyl says, hey, this is the best color trueness we've found to be accurate for this material. And sometimes I go in and I change the profiles myself, make a custom profile. But 99% of the time, the profiles themselves they're pretty good. They're pretty good.
So getting back to what we were talking about earlier about the frames being like all these funky sizes and weird shapes and stuff, like, are those like fonts and stuff kind of distorted to work around those corners, or they're crisp in the way that they are and then they just lay on the frame that way?
Man, it runs the gamut. That's a trick question almost,
So
sometimes I get, say it again.
So it depends on the vendor?
Sometimes it depends on the vendor, yeah. A lot of the smaller companies don't have, the best designers who work within the kind of graphic standards of the industry. And then you have like some of the larger companies who have their shit dialed and it's fucking perfect, So
like on a Santa Cruz bike or whatever bike, like the big name bikes, are those aren't like stickers that I can just like peel off, right?
No. Most of the time, the stuff you see on bikes is what's called a water decal. And it's a really thin, so like they'll stick this stuff into water and it basically turns it into almost a gel layer. It's super thin. And then they put it on there and then they squeegee it on and then they pull away the backing and it leaves the graphic. They dry that and then they clear coat over it.
So they clear coat over it. So it's not like you can go out there and get a carbon or even an aluminum bike and just kind of get those stickers off because the clear coat's on there on top of them.
Correct. So my solution to that is I usually make graphics that are supposed to cover current graphics about 1 millimeter wider all the way around so that you have a slight tiny bit of way to play with it. And then also realize that the good thing about vinyl is it's highly, highly elastic. So if you start to put it down and you notice like, oh shit, it's just a tad too small. If you take a hairdryer and heat it for about 10 seconds, you'll be able to pull it over just a little bit to fit it. And it's very forgiving material, that's why we like it.
So customizing your bike, which I've done or you've done to mine, like it makes it look totally fucking different and definitely like unique to you.
Right.
But there's also some properties to it that, I didn't think about whenever I first did it. Like you did a down tube sticker for me. Mm-hmm. And that's actually like really a protective layer for like when I'm shuttling and stuff like that. Do you have anything that you do do you do like a thicker material for that, or do you have or a product that you do for protection?
We've been looking into protective stuff, and I've actually been talking with the Ibis guys and working on some protective layering, like super custom, per bike, per size. And unfortunately right now, the logistics aspect of it just doesn't pan out. Because I'm talking about, even if you're talking about 40, 50 frames a year, you're still talking about 3 to 4 to 5 sizes per frame, right? and I've got to put the R&D time in to do that. And then who knows if people are going to buy it, right? So currently it's not feasible.
Right.
That's not to say that we won't do it. We are looking into some more generic style protection, but that wasn't the main idea of the company originally. But we do get asked that quite often, so it's on our radar.
So one of the other things that I think I need to break up or mention, and I think this is a touchy subject, is not everything you can do is on your site, right?
Correct. The site is for what I call participating partners. And if people want things that I don't have, send me an email. We can probably figure it out, build it for you, do what you need, get it done.
Okay. So the moral of that story is, if you go to the website and you don't see something that you need, send them an email and you should be able to work with you.
Eyes wide shut.
Right. Within the legal parameters of the world.
Correct.
We'll just say it like that. So yes. What is like some of your favorite designs that you've done so far?
Wow. I am a pretty simple guy in terms of what I like. I don't really like the loud and crazy, even though my bike, I kind of went crazy with it. And I did this, I call it my like dad brand Ripley. And I did some basically like Hawaiian style floral prints on it. And I thought it was going to actually be really, gaudy, obnoxious. And the point of it was to start conversations with people out on the trail. But in the end, it actually ended up looking pretty cool. And it wasn't as like murderously overt as I thought it was going to be. So that was kind of one of the crazier ones I've done. I got to say, a lot of the camo ones have been really cool. I work really closely with Fanatic Bike Shop. They order quite a bit of decals from me. I do quite a bit of custom decal work for them. If you guys haven't heard of them, they're a bike shop out of Bellingham that does a crap ton of custom, and they're fantastic.
The guys that watch Daily MTB Rider, he works with them pretty closely too.
Yeah. So they've been a big supporter of mine, gotten the name out there for me. They push people to me when they don't want to deal with the custom aspect that, they don't want to play telephone. They're like, hey, go to the source, So that's been good. I've got a lot of shops that use me regularly. I'm starting to do a little bit more business with Wrench Science out of like Berkeley area. Worldwide uses me.
So I want to talk to you about some stuff that we've talked about that's in the future potentially.
Yeah.
Like upsell something. I'm gonna put you on a fucking time frame. No, like some of the things that we talked about, like just in our casual conversations that I thought was really interesting was like you were thinking about potentially getting to a point where like you could put something into a bike shop and then people would be able to go in there and just pick different colors and.
Oh yeah, man! I've got so many ideas.
All the ideas.
Well, so I have a mentor who's really high up in the bike industry, and I'm gonna leave him nameless right now, but we talk often, and he kind of helps ground me because I've got kind of a idea ADD almost. And so one of his best sayings that he said to me was, you have 100 ideas, choose 2, Richard. Choose fucking 2. And
right.
At the time, it didn't really like sink in and solidify. And then when it did, I was just like, I get it, right? Like you can only probably work on 2 things and fully commit yourself to that on top of maintaining, the influx of customers that I have, being that I'm a pretty small company with like 3 dudes,
Right.
So yeah, I do have a lot of ideas and I don't want to throw them out there and get people super excited because some of them may come to fruition, some of them may not. But the first thing that will come up on the site is I will be adding bike colorways to the site so that they will be certified to be as close as possible that we can get to. And you don't have to guess and just go, hey, that color 3rd over from the right and 4 down, that looks like my bike. You'll be able to go in and go, this is my Yeti vitamin P, like my bike back there. You'll know that's the color. And then one of the other options will be, we're probably going to pare down the offerings and offer colors up front. So if you click on Vitamin P Ripley, there'll be 3 different versions right there, ready to rock and roll, right? And you're like, that's the one I want. And then what we'd like to do too is get a little deeper in terms of at least understanding, the parts that come on bikes. So if you go and get this Ripley, right, and you bought the whole bike, chances are if you bought it, it's got a Fox fork and it's got a Fox shock on it, right? And so it'll be like, hey, you got the Fox fork in this color. Is this the shock you want? Are these the wheels you want? And it'll all be right there. And then hopefully what I can do is offer a better pricing package deal, and it's a lot easier for you to buy it all at once,
So one thing I want to clear up for people, because unfortunately, like my relationship with you is not exactly the same as a regular consumer, because the way that we've been working together. But and I want to make sure that people understand this. Like, there's a difference in saying, hey, I want the Santa Cruz graphics in pink instead of in orange, but instead I want, you to murder some shit out for me, and put some bike cogs in the back of my icons and this and that. There's a design fee, right?
Correct. So what I've done is design time currently is $100 an hour, but I've broken that out into quarter-hour increments. So basically $25. And 99% of the designs that I do, as long as people aren't super choosy or picky, can be done in a quarter hour, right?
But basically, it's a quarter hour for everybody except for me, because Richard and I, we go back and forth all the time.
Yeah. I've almost gotten to the point where I'm going to charge Robert double. So, yeah.
So people have an idea, like, what's a fork cost? Like, if I just want graphics for my rock shocks, what's that?
Forks run $35. Some are a little bit more. So there's the one that's a little bit more is the Manitou Dorado, because it uses more material, therefore more cost. And then there is an upcharge for metallic material, because it is the cost for me to buy a roll of metallic material is literally like 3 times that of me buying a regular roll of vinyl.
So it's probably like $40 to $60, something like that, for a fork.
No, it's between 35 and 45.
Oh, okay. So it's not that bad then.
No.
So then, as far as like, if somebody wants to get their forks, their wheels, and their frame done with a color that is just different than the vent, like the way it came, like, right, something like that cost?
That ranges. Wheel decals vary in size greatly. Some take up a square foot of material. Some take up 4 square feet of material. So wheel decals run from about 25 to 75. Forks are maintain the same price approximately. Shocks, same thing. So frames range from $25 all the way up to $75 on frames.
So you're probably about $500 or less to get your whole bike done.
Oh, absolutely. Most even if I charge you full pop on stuff with some design time, you're only looking at about $300. But what I'd like to do is, if people are interested in putting together a full bike like that, I usually offer a pretty good discount. I take 25% off if you order frame, fork, shock, wheel set, that kind of stuff. So I'll work with you.
The 300-ish range is about what it costs then to get your bike done up.
Like a full bike, yeah, full blown bike.
But just like the basic colors from or just changing colors. Like, so then if you want to get funky in your design, then you're adding some design time on it. Maybe that costs you another $100.
I'd still say that falls under 300 unless you're getting super complex.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
I had a guy that wanted some decals for a bike, and he wanted like crazy zombies all over it, and that ended up being about $450, but that was because I had to like find files, create files, lay it all out in there, change the colors, overlap them, cut it out. So, it takes time.
I think that's fair. For what you're getting, something that's completely customized compared to, the way that it's shipped. I know, for example, like Moonlight Leatherfoot bought that new Bronson, or last year's Bronson. He loves the color of the bike, but all the fonts are red. So he's like, oh, I want to do something different. So I think for that extra amount, like what you get, in my opinion, I think I personally feel like that's worth it. maybe other people don't, but I feel like it is personally. So,
you know, and I really want to point out that I'm really trying to work within the industry and with the brands, and you know, I'm building a brand here. So if somebody was to take my intellectual property and start using it somewhere else, you know, I worked hard to create what I have. So I respect that coming from these companies. So I really want to work with them, you know, and there's no other company out there that's trying to do it the way I'm doing. So, you know, when you support some of these other guys, you know, basically you're buying the counterfeit Louis Vuitton, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Right.
So
two things I want to say for those of you guys watching, think of some questions because we are going to take some live questions. I didn't do that last week, but I want to incorporate that into the live stream going forward. I'm just trying to figure this out as I go along. But one of the things that I do want to talk to you about is application. So tell me like what it is that people need to know. Like, how does the bike have to be? Like, if you fuck up putting it on, is the sticker done? Like those kind of things. So
great question, man. I get a lot of those, and so if I can kind of dispel some of the worries that people have, you know, in a group, the better. So number one, the material that we use, I probably went through about 50 different materials trying to find the one that to me encompassed qualities that were good for people that were not versed in putting vinyl onto a surface, i.e. it didn't stretch really easily. It wasn't a super tacky initial put down, and B, it's a durable material. So what I mean by that is this vinyl is a little bit thicker, so it doesn't stretch quite as easily right off the bat. And
but it does actually have, like you told me, it has like little microscopic holes in it, though, right?
Yeah, so that's an air release material, and that basically allows for, even if you get a bubble in there, if you just leave it alone and hit it with some heat, the material will actually shrink back down and push the air out. So that's one of the qualities we really liked, number one. But number two, the material that we use has what's called an initial tack. And that initial tack is a lighter adhesive quality than its full initial or its full adhesion. And that's achieved through, it's got kind of two layers of adhesion. And that second one is activated by heat and rubbing, right? So what I recommend to people to do is get your stuff into place first, and you can pull it up as many times as you need. And if you bend it out of place a little bit, you can hit it with a hairdryer, and that'll basically bring it back to its original shape. And then once you have it in place and you're happy with the placement, hit it with the hairdryer, which will shrink it down, and also it'll basically activate these other little microscopic bubbles of secondary adhesive, kind of like an epoxy. It's a two-step, right? And then you burnish it down, meaning giving it a good rub, and that really sets it. And then if you have the luxury of not riding your bike for 24 hours after application, that's best case scenario.
So I know, like, when people like get their windows tinted, those guys kind of spray like a soapy water on it first, and then they put the sticker down. You don't want to
do that, but I you know, this stuff's so forgiving, and bike decals are so much smaller than, you know, windows or moto decals or car wraps or anything like that. You're going to be struggling a little bit more if you add that, because you're going to be trying to squeegee it out and it's going to move. I wouldn't recommend it, but I mean, if you have experience using that type of application, then absolutely go for it. You know, I include instructions with all my shipments, and we're looking to do some really kind of cool videos to help show how to take it, how to put it on. And I'm actually looking at hopefully including an alcohol cleaning spray and a squeegee soon with like orders over, say, $50.
So, and the other thing that people need to know, these stickers aren't like you peel them off a piece of paper and stick them on there. It's a two-part, right?
Well, it depends. It depends. I mean, some decals. Okay, so we have what's called a single decal, which you can peel off and put on, or you have what's called
a rim or something like that, right?
Okay. What do you mean?
A rim, like an NV sticker is just one big sticker, so you probably pull that off and stick it on.
Correct.
But when you have letters that are like saying
individually cut out,
then that's on a two-part, right?
Right. So what you have is what's called a release paper, and that has a tack that is stickier than the vinyl to the kind of plasticized backing. And so you pull that application paper back, and your decals are stuck on that.
You pull the back of it off, and now you have a piece of paper with all the stickers stuck on it, but that's still you. And then you stick that on the frame.
Right. And then you give that a rub, and then you can peel off the application paper, and that leaves the decals on the frame.
At that point, if something's not lined up right, then that's where you kind of go back and like individually readjust or something like that.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. What I usually do is I take a little piece of painter's tape if I'm doing lettering, and I'll put it about 1 millimeter away from the lettering, and I'll do each letter individually. It takes more time, but in the end, you're probably going to be happier with the outcome.
Oh, okay. But you still use the release paper, though? You like just cut each letter out and then do that?
Correct.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What is like the time that it probably takes to do a frame? Like if you're doing...
I mean, if you got a clean frame, I mean, you could probably get it done in an hour, hour and a half. You got to clean the frame. You're looking at 3 hours probably for like a full, like fork, shock, wheels, and frame. About 3 hours.
Right on. So stepping away from the product again, and just like, where is it that you want to see like STIKRD getting to? Like, what is some of like how do you want to see this company grow?
Man, again, 100 ideas, choose 2, right? That's where I'm kind of at right now. I'm actually looking at possibly white labeling the site, right? So I'd be able to create widgets that I give to the companies that I work with that basically installs a STIKRD-like application in their site, and people can customize their shit on the spot, right? You buy the bike, you customize the decals. You buy the fork, you customize the decals. Of course, I print them. I can either ship them to them, they can put them on, or I can ship them to the person who bought them. They put them on.
Well, that'd be pretty sick. You go to the shop, you're like, I fucking hate the red letters. I want this with the pink letters. And why do I keep saying pink today? I don't know. Got pink on the brain.
The flavor of your favorite color.
Right? I can go down that rabbit hole. So,
Wait. Is this thing on? Hello? Be here all week.
So, what is something that like makes you excited about where the company is going right now?
Well, you know, beforehand, you know, the company's been around for about 3.5 years, in some capacity or another, and it was literally just us trying to chase everybody and their mother down. And now I've got some of the big companies coming to me, you know. So I feel like maybe that says, hey, you've kind of arrived, right? Like right now I'm working with Norco to become part of their custom bike builder on their site, you know. And Norco is basically the Specialized of fucking Canada, eh?
Right. Hey.
Subtle humor. But yeah, so that's you know, I get emails like that all the time. You know, I just picked up stands not too long ago, so they'll be on the site soon. I'm working more with Industry 9. They've been a great customer. I got to get more of their stuff on the site. You know, I've got Manitou on board. I got to get a bunch of their stuff on the site.
With Derby and Knight and Project 321 too. So some smaller companies as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, not to say that was kind of the plan to draw the bigger fish in, but originally we were like, you know what, these smaller companies can't keep up in terms of colorways and can't keep up in terms of like having all of these decals always readily available. I mean, just to have and stock and reorder and, you know, plan for having these decals, you're talking about thousands of dollars in product that may or may not sell. And you're talking about probably a full-time position of somebody you're paying $45K a year, right? So these small companies simply don't have the bandwidth and the money to do it. And that's where a lot of them were just like, this is brilliant. Let's do it. Help us out, you know?
So, and I think you've done some stuff too that I thought was pretty cool, even outside of the bike that I never would have really thought of. Like I've seen you do graphics like for helmets as well, like where you're adding some customization to a helmet or, you know, something like that, where like you can actually even like make yourself look pretty kidded compared to, you know, the guy next to you, and it's really just throwing some stickers on there.
Yeah, you know, your helmet sponsor, Cali. I work pretty closely with those guys. Been a huge fan of their product forever. Not to mention the dudes over there are just down to earth, treated me really well. But you know, I've been
today, and I have to interject this right now. Like, somebody was telling me that they were trying to get some strike, or they got some strikes, and either something was wrong with them, or something was messed up. I can't remember what the deal was.
Right.
And the sizing wasn't right. So the guy ordered the wrong size, and the right size that he needed they were out of stock on.
Right.
And they actually sent him the right, or they sent him a whole different knee pad, and we're like, look, you take these and you ride with these until we get these, and we'll send you the right ones. And the way that I responded back to him was like, look, I'm telling you, out of every company, and I haven't done business with a lot of company in my channel yet, but out of all the companies that I've worked with so far, they are hands down like they are fucking legitimately taking care of their customers. Like, and I'm not saying that you're fucked up, but those guys, man, they really like they're squared away, man.
Yeah, no, they are, absolutely, man. And you know, I'm actually working with them right now on helping them out with some graphic design and some like pop display stuff and some of their messaging. But anyway, I've also been working with them to create some online helmet graphics that, just like the forks and the shocks, you'll be able to click and color, and you'll get this kit to install. So if you're like a BMX rider or you're a team rider, you put your colors on there. You can send us your logo, we'll slap that in there. You can send us your rider names, we'll slap that in there. And it's going to be just this really cool, easy experience, hopefully. I mean, that's the idea behind it.
I had a really good question, but I forgot it.
Yeah, it's in the beer fridge.
All I got to do is just reach in here for another question.
A lot of question.
So, what the hell was it I was going to ask you?
So, Richard, how do people get a hold of you?
You can either go to the site and basically hit the inquiry button, which will send an email to our general info line, which is info@STIKRD.com, or you can email me directly at richard@STIKRD.com. It's as simple as that.
That's so weird because I found you on Tinder. So
yeah, you mean Grindr, right?
Or what was Grindr? Was it? I forgot.
Yeah, we were sitting there and doing foot stall signals underneath the bathroom stalls and the trucker stop. Yeah, that was us.
So apparently Richard has a little bit of a sense of humor.
Somewhat.
So I was going to say as well, like, so outside of bikes and you also do like logo design and stuff like that too, right?
I do, yeah. I mean, I've been a graphic designer now for, I mean, professionally, you know, after college and whatnot, I've been for 15 years now. I've worked for, my first company was Expedia, and I worked with them. I was a, you know, general designer, did a lot of in-house stuff, and then I became part of the web team, did a lot of user interface design, user experience design, and then I became the global manager of visual design for Rocktape, which sounds really sexy, but basically was a made-up title that I gave myself because the boss said, "What do you want to be called?" And I said, "Global manager of visual design." He goes, "That sounds good." So what I did with them is, you know,
that's actually the same title that I told Katie to refer to me as, because I'm definitely global manager of visual design.
Look at that. That is a svelte model right there. What do you call that?
Oh, this shit's on point, man.
It's the all the sex model.
Or the lack thereof. I don't know. Whatever it is. So,
he has thumbs model. That's what this is.
Right.
I'm sorry. What was that, Mumbles?
So we do have to sidestep just a hair. So you will do like stickers for channels, or like somebody that just wants to like put some stickers on for their car club or something like that. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've designed logos for about 2 or 3 dudes that have YouTube channels. I've done stickers for probably 10 times as many of those. We do vehicle wraps. We do. I actually have a friend who opened up a bagel bar just recently here in Campbell, California. I did her logo. I did window decals. I did this cool little project where she asked me for some stickers to include with one of those TheraFlasks, you know, so you can put the stickers on there. I helped her with their menus. I mean, it runs the gamut, man. Yeah, I really have and can do it all. I've got vendors for everything. You know.
So what would be the reason that, from your perspective, why somebody would want to come to you and not maybe print through like Sticker Mule or something like that?
Well, that's a great question. Sticker Mule, and I'm going to have to take this back to, you know, customer service and personal touch, really.
I mean, we're sticker somebody, not sticker. We're not calling out any brands, but if there
Sticker
was
Donkey
out there, and we were trying to say not to use them, but to use you, who would that company be?
Look, man, I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke at these people. You know, Sticker Mule is a legit company. They make a great product, and they're easy to deal with. Now, however, if you're inexperienced in the ways of making stickers, you might send them a file and get it back, and it looks like shit because they don't care. They're a turn and burn company, right? Me, you're going to send me something, and I'm going to send you a proof, and you're going to say, yes, that's it, or no, it's not. We're going to work together, and we're going to get you what you want. And so I think there's a little bit more of a hand-holding and a personal touch and just a little bit higher level of customer service on my end. I mean, yeah, they've got a really great glamorized checkout system online you can just sit there and do. But again, you know, ordering stickers for the first time, if you're going to drop a wad of cash, can be scary, right? Especially if I just had a friend of mine. She called me up. She owns a hair salon. She goes, I got these stickers. They fucking suck. Can you help me? And I said, yeah, I can help you. So, I mean, that's one story off the bat that I can think of amongst a sea of many.
So ultimately, with your business, though, your core business is taking care of us bike riders. You don't sell any stickers to like roadies, do you?
To who?
Roadies.
Oh, yeah, no, I got roadies is becoming fast a large part of it. You know, I work with Specialized, and I do a lot of road bikes. I do a ton of road wheels. I do a ton of cross wheels as well. You know, and I think, you know, road bikers like to look pretty just like us mountain bikers do, you know?
I think they do a little bit more than us, actually.
Possibly. I mean, they look better in tight clothes, let's be honest, you know?
Not us big guys, though. We don't look good.
God, look like a sausage casing.
Let's get back to you riding, dude. Where do you ride at?
You know, I'm blessed to live in an area where I can ride 11 months out of the year, maybe 12 if you don't mind a little slop. But I live right next to Santa Cruz, California. Some of the best riding in the world, I say. And on top of that, you know, if I'm going for a quick go-to, I'm here in San Jose. I've got Santa Teresa Park.
That one legit trail in UC, and that's it, right?
What's that? Yeah, I go up Pogo Nip, and then I ride the Fire Road, 2 green gates, and then ride back down Pogo Nip. It's thrilling. It really is. Riveting.
If you have somebody, right?
Yeah. Sometimes I walk sections. I'm a fat kid. I have no shame.
What's your favorite ride you've ever done, dude?
I mean, you know, it's cliche, but Whistler, dude. Whistler's fucking fantastic. If you haven't been there, it'll change your life. I mean, you'll advance your skills. You know, if you ride 4 or 5 days in Whistler, you become twice the rider you were before. You'll do stuff that scared the shit out of you before, and it becomes kind of part of your repertoire. And just the culture up there is fucking fantastic too. You
went down to Rampage too in the past, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, no, that was fucking fantastic. I did that in about 2012. I got to ride with some big name pros, and I also got to meet the Canfield brothers, who make fucking fantastic bikes as well. And you know, I was jumping off the edges of cliffs and doing jumps that I didn't think I would do, but the stoke level there was so fucking giant that like what was out of my range became like the norm across the plate. Like everybody was doing it, you know? So that was super cool. If you guys can get out to Rampage, I'd highly recommend it. Fantastic.
Is that's open to the public?
It is.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They've changed the ticketing structure now. I don't know how it goes now, but like the tickets sold out in like an hour this last year. But when I went, dude, you could roll up to the gate, buy a ticket. You could camp anywhere, you know, like just pull off the side of the road and camp. And then the old Rampage site across from the new Rampage site was open, and dudes were fucking, you know, shuttling up to the top. bike hiking up to the top and just throwing down big, man. It was cool.
What was like the most shocking thing to you? Like probably the features, just that are just insane, or
Oh yeah, I mean, you see it on TV, and yeah, it looks giant because you're looking at this little ant hugging off the side of the cliff. But these trails these guys are riding, you were literally like allowed to stand a foot away from these fucking cliffs they're hucking off of. So I'm standing at the edge of this 50-foot cliff with a 70-foot gap to the landing, and here comes like Cam McCall or here comes Cam Zink, boom, backflip off this thing. Like his handlebar, I could have reached out and touched his handlebar, you know. It was insane. And then just to be there in person and realize how big it was, I mean, it's a whole nother level, dude.
What have you, what, like before you started working with the bike industry, like, is there anything about the bike industry that like took you by surprise that you didn't expect before you were working in it?
No, it's just like any other corporate world, you know. I've found there's about a 2-year process of acceptance to anything new. When I'd bring new ideas to the table when I was at Expedia, it took about 2 years to get my idea up and running to fruition and at a you know optimal level of operation. And it's kind of been the same thing within the bike industry. It's getting that acceptance, right? And that acceptance is gained through, you know, at first it was built on the backs of the smaller companies. And then the bigger ones came along, and the bigger ones and the bigger ones. It's kind of, you know, pyramid in shape, if you will. You know, there's still a couple key players missing that I don't know if they'll ever say yes, you know. But hopefully they see the light, you know, and hopefully some of my new product offerings and some of my new web offerings will sway them in the right direction, you know.
What's your favorite kind of riding?
Again, riding in Santa Cruz, I mean, I like good, chunky, steep gnar. I'm not really a flow trail guy. I like it here and there, but I'm not going to spend all day doing it. You know, like I'm going to be honest with you. I don't fucking like the flow trail in demo forest. I don't. It's only really smooth and operational maybe a month out of the year. The rest of the time it's full of braking bumps.
It's funny that you say that because I've known that about you for a while. And the first time that I rode Flow, I rode it about a week after they finished doing all their maintenance.
Yeah.
And it fucking dialed. And yeah. I rode it again about a month ago, and I'm editing that video right now. And it was just so fucked up.
Yeah.
Like the experience was not the same. Like it was really like the first time I rode it was like going to an amusement park and riding a roller coaster for the first time.
Right.
Like all you wanted to do is go home and think about it some more and rub your crotch and then go again, you know? Yeah. And then the second time I rode it was like, oh wow. Like I came through this one corner, and then in the middle of the berm is like this huge, like erosion spot, you know, where it's like a tire wash, and you're like, oh fuck, dude, like actually like Moonlight, because he dipped into that, sunk a fork, and like flew over the top of the berm. Yeah, is definitely like that experience. I can understand if you live locally to that, why that maybe that trail is not the greatest to you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, counter to my point, I like the gnar, and you'd be like, well, why don't you like the flow trail when it's gnar? It's like, well, because it's not supposed to be that, right? Like I like a trail that's built the way it's supposed to be built and riding it for what it is. So if I'm going to be on the flow trail, I want to fucking rail that bitch, you know? But right. If I'm going to go ride gnar, I know I'm going to have to ride a little bit slower and pick better lines and, you know, just be on the ball a little bit more. It's a different experience, right?
As a big dude and following you on the trails, like I can say that I've been really like surprised by how well you ride, and I can say that we've ridden in some spots in Santa Cruz where like I've come up to it, and it's like Santa Cruz is definitely, they like steep there, like seriously fucking steep, and I've come up to some stuff where it's just like the best way I could explain it would be like if you were sitting on the side of a half pipe and you're just like,
you can remember.
I mean, it's like
but you can attest when we went and rode Pacifica.
Yeah.
You mean New Zealand?
No. We rode out of Pacifica and that big like rock waterfall.
Yeah.
There's just some insane stuff. So let's go ahead and turn this over and see if there's anybody out there in the chat section that has anything they want to throw out to Richard. We can answer some questions, because I'm gonna go ahead and spin my wheels for a minute and just run my mouth while the chat starts popping up. Do you guys have anything you want to ask Richard or C-Lock, because he likes to talk? We'll go ahead and throw that out there right now. So in the meantime, while we're waiting for the chat to pop up, out of the places that you've ridden, where's the place that you want to ride?
New Zealand.
Well, that was a short question.
For a second time.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Response.
No, there's a lot of stuff in Colorado and Utah that I want to get out to too.
C-Lock says, why New Zealand?
I've just heard they've got a really good mountain bike culture out there, and I've seen a lot of the trails, and it looks fantastic.
So Mark Rides Bike says, what is one of the most challenging designs that you've done?
One of the most challenging designs. I've had a couple people ask for like full custom designs. Yes, sir. Question. Yeah, no, Roberts was pretty challenging because he didn't know what he wanted until he fucking wanted it. And so, we redid a couple things.
Let me back the fuck up here, buddy.
Hold on a second. No. Robert waits till the last minute to do everything, because then it only takes a fucking minute.
Also true.
I think for me, the reason that you and I bump heads and I tell you, I was joking earlier, but not joking when I said I'm the most fucking difficult customer. And I think it's because I am a pseudo designer as well. So I have
emphasis on the pseudo.
Yes, very emphasis on the pseudo. But I have a design idea, and he's an artist as well, so it's like his idea may be a little different than mine, and somehow we have to it's almost like a little relationship that we have to go through.
Let's call it this. You're a designer in the way that an executioner is a hairstylist, okay?
Sweet.
You're fucking hacking off heads, and you're like, so are we good? No.
I can't wait till I start working
so
for you.
True, man. That's fucking nailed it, man.
Robert's got a guillotine, and they're like, he's like, so just a little off the top, or?
I saved your life at the fucking at the German restaurant, so I'm just gonna say.
Anyway,
Yeah.
So
who knew Robert would stop me from choking on his wiener?
Hey man, us Germans will kill anybody any way we can. So
right. Whoa, hey, that's a dark alley we just turned down.
So Shady MTB wants to know, do you wrap full face helmets?
I do. I actually outsource my wrapping. I have a guy here in the Bay Area. He's been doing it for about 20 years. He's like one of the godfathers of it. He's fantastic. So I work on the design, and then I have him wrap it. He's very reasonably priced, although he's not the cheapest. I'll admit that, but he also stands behind his product and does a great job. So we can do that. Yes.
No, and you have a guy that'll wrap a whole frame too. Like if somebody just wants to get out of control.
A wrap will run you about $150 for the actual wrap job, and then based on the different kinds of material out there, it can run the gamut plus design time. So I mean, you can look at a wrap job for around $500, or you could get it done for $300.
So, but if they're local to you, that makes it a lot easier. Otherwise, they got to tear the frame down, ship you the frame.
Well, they still have to tear it down, and if separate the front from the rear triangle, and clean it. It has to be just absolute balls clean to be able to be wrapped. So.
My balls aren't very clean, so I guess we're
not right now. Making some abondigas over there.
Right. So I noticed in the background there, you got your logo up there, that little sticker. So you're a heavy metal fan?
Oh yeah, big time. Actually going to be going to see Slayer here on the 26th at the SAP Center, so I'm very excited about that. Going to take my son. It's their last tour, so I figured baptism by fire. Literally.
So you have kids? What do you got?
I have an 11-year-old son, and I have a almost 5-year-old daughter.
Right on.
Yeah.
Outside of being a father, you're a mountain biker. You're running this. Do you do anything else for fun outside of mountain biking?
Work at this point. I used to tattoo. I'd really like to get back into that at some point, but in order to do that, I need the website to be a little bit more efficient and take on a lot of the design incidences that I run into. But I'd love to get back into that.
What was the funniest tattoo you ever did?
So one night after copious amounts of booze, we had gone to an art show in San Francisco, and this dude had an entire art show where he literally colored in tree branches with pencil. So he basically just colored trees with pencils. And then we were on our way back and stopped for some drinks, and two of my buddies were like, wouldn't it be funny if we got some silly tattoos? So one of them ended up getting a squirrel reaching for his nuts, and then my other buddy got a rooster with boxing gloves on next to his dick because it was a cockfight. Yeah, so those are the best. Now
I'm definitely understanding why you and I are friends.
So then, STIKRD event, there's going to be a tattoo booth,
right, dude? I still have the machines, man. We'll break them out for the next event.
That's going to be really sanitary.
What so you were at the Downeyville event as well.
Yeah.
What did you take away from that?
You know, you've got a lot of loyal fans, man, and you're a relatable dude. You're not, you know, here's the thing. Us everyday riders watch these videos of these fucking amazing riders, and we're like, yeah, I'd love to ride like that, but let's be honest, I'm not going to ride like that. So when you get to see ordinary dudes riding at an ordinary pace on amazing trails, it's awesome because you're like, I understand the trail now. I can see that that's a speed I'm probably comfortable with, and he can do it, I can do it, right? And it motivates people. But I just think on a level, you're relatable, you're a real dude, and that goes a long way in my book, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Who was out of the people that you've met from working in the bike industry now, like who were some people that really like stood up to you as like stand-up guys?
You know, off the top of my head, I would say Andrew Taylor. And you met him at the Norco camp. For as an amazing a rider as he is, you know, he's just a dude. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't.
For people that don't know names, Andrew Taylor is a Rampage rider, right?
He used to ride Rampage. He used to be he used to have this event called AT Showdown here in the Bay Area, and they build these huge, ridiculous ramps, and these dudes would be doing like, you know, double backflip while they're spinning their bars and just all kinds of crazy stuff. And you know, you should go follow Andrew Taylor, man. He's traveling around the United States, riding all over the United States right now. Good dude, and he's one of my sponsored riders. You know, yeah.
So if somebody's hemming and hawing about like changing, like doing a custom bike, what would be the reason that you think that they should? Who's the customer one?
Look, not everybody wants to look like everybody else. Plain and simple, right? I mean, that's the idea of custom. And my big thing with stickers is, here's the great thing about stickers. It offers a degree of protection. And also, you know, when it comes time to sell your bike, which we all do, you can pull those stickers off and you got a frame that's been protected, and it's the regular stock color. So it appeals to a wider audience of people when you go to resell it, right? Whereas if you were to say, I'm going to go paint my frame and I want to paint it fucking metallic green, you've alleviated a ton of people that are going to buy that bike from you. And so this is a way to make the bike yours, but at the same time, not desecrate it in a way that makes it unvaluable to other people, you know?
Or you can upsell it because it's custom, and then if they don't like it, then they can just take it off.
Well, one of the things that I've been toying with the idea of, you know, show me a picture of you selling a bike, or show me a picture of a receipt that you just bought a bike, and I'll give you a discount on some decals for, you know, making the bike yours, you know? So that's one idea.
So let's talk about that real quick as we're wrapping up here then. So what's the process if you want these off your bike? Does it fuck your bike up?
Not at all. Not at all. They peel right off. And if they leave any residue, just take some rubbing alcohol and hit it, and you can wipe it right off.
A little Windex or something like that, and you're good to go.
Yeah, Windex works too.
Right on, man. Is there anything you want to say to everybody before we sign out here?
Man, you know, for those of you that have bought stuff from me in the past, you know, thank you for your support, man. And those of you who haven't, you know, give me a call and let's see if we can't make something happen for you. And hopefully we can make you happy with what you're riding, you know, refresh an old bike or make a new bike look even more awesome. And, you know, custom is the new standard.
So yeah, if you guys want to follow him on Instagram, it is at STIKRD, STIKRD, and the hashtag custom is the new standard is where most of the pictures, if you want to see some other people's designs and stuff like that, go to Instagram, check that out. You got Instagram, you have Facebook too?
Yeah, you got a Facebook too. It's just STIKRD.
STIKRD. So that's that, man. Well, hey man, I really appreciate you taking the time to time here with us on a Sunday afternoon, and it was good hanging out and chatting.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. Seriously.
So for all you guys out there, man, it only takes a bike to be a biker. Get the fuck out and be one, right, bitches?